Amen. Okay, so today's class is a popular scripture that perhaps I don't think there's any one of us from children's church, if we are born believers, who didn't hear or perhaps have an understanding of the story of Joseph in the house of Potiphar. Joseph went through three phases in this area, and I would like to quickly touch on the three. The first of the phase is something that is quite funny, and many of you may not see it as such, but let me put it in context for you. So this is a boy. This boy woke up at home one morning in his father's house. He was sold into slavery by his brothers. We know how slaves are treated, so we can't pretend that the Ishmaelites that bought this guy, that they treated him very well. He will have been starved, maybe flogged, made to do a lot of menial chores. He will have eaten so little food. Surely the confidence that his son has in his father's house, he wouldn't have that. And as sure as I know, the joy that the son has in his father's house, he wouldn't have that. He will be longing for home. He will be torn by the betrayal of his brothers. He will have wept himself to sleep many nights. He would have been depressed. When we look at what happened to Joseph from a human perspective, when we don't just read it, but we actually put it, because I write, and if I'm going to write the story of Joseph and I decide to flesh it out and give it all the components of humanity, Joseph will not be such a pretty picture that many of us assume that he is. He will have made it so much, he will have endured so much. And then this boy got to Egypt and he was sold to an Egyptian. And yet, the Bible said God was with him. How will he know that? Do you know many of us here, when we are going through excruciating, tough time, when we are going through pain, serious pain, that is the moment we shout, God has abandoned me. Oh, God has forsaken me. God, where is your face? Where is your face? Where is your face? That is the moment we begin to scream and shout, God has left me. God is no longer with me. What did I do for you, God? Oh, God, you allowed the devil to punish me like this. Oh, God, you have abandoned me to my enemies. But his reality was not showing that he was enjoying. That is my point. You look at Joseph's life, right from the moment he was sold till he got to Egypt, there was no evidence that God was with this guy. I can't imagine myself being sold into slavery and then believing that that is God's will for me. That would not be true. The suffering is not a natural thing to endure, and the pain is not a natural thing to endure. So how did you know God was with him? Because the person that wrote this story, who was Prophet Moses, God said to Moses that I was with him. Do you when Moses was writing the book of Genesis in the wilderness, God, the Shekinah glory of God, was dictating the history of Israel to Moses under the cloud. This was where this book was written, in the wilderness. When the children of Israel, when God was trying to help the children of Israel gain a sense of balance and a root, when he began to tell them their story, so that they would not assume that they came from the stock of Egypt or that they were Egyptians, so that they would not be confused as to their identity. God had to tell them their story. And so in the course of trying to tell them their story, God told Moses the story of Joseph as part of the history of Israel. And God told Moses Hundreds of years after Joseph had suffered, God said to Moses, I was with him. And Moses wrote it down. And God, the Lord was with Joseph and he prospered. And so when you look at that picture, you understand that when we are going through certain difficulties, we may not know God is with us. We may assume God has abandoned us. But God is with us. Like a mighty and terrible one, He is with us, regardless of what to find ourselves subjected to. I wanted to make that clear, that oftentimes when we go through hard patches, that's the moment when it seems as if God is not with us. But God was with Joseph, and God is with us. No matter how strenuous, how difficult that reality that we are going through is, even now, when some of us here are dealing with maybe issues of finances, health, and all that, and we are thinking, no, let me just join. Maybe today God will have mercy on me. No. God dwells in you. God dwells in the congregation of the saints. God is here right now. God has not abandoned you. God didn't abandon Joseph. That's one. Two, look at Joseph's character. You will the norm. Many of us here will understand what I'm about to say now. There are some people that I know that in Lagos, because they were born in Lagos and they come from very affluent families in Lagos, if you offer them certain jobs, they will refuse to take it. They will say no, they cannot take a job that is in Lagos. They cannot sweep the road, for example, or they cannot drive. I can't drive, but do you know who my father is? Do you know who my mother is? Do you know the kind of family I come from? Do you know what people will say? I met somebody that came from a family, very prominent family, somewhere in the east. In Lagos, he drives Uber. He drives Uber very well. But whenever he's going home at the end of the year with his wife, he would print business card. He would print whatever on it. He wants to go home, and he wants people at home to believe that he's doing well. He wasn't doing badly driving the Uber, so I have nothing against him driving the Uber. But the impression he wanted to create at home was that he was making a go of it in Lagos. And even though they were living in a place and he saved a lot, it was saving quite a lot of money. So they were living in a very poor community and all that. He was deliberately doing that so that when he would go home to continue he was building in the village, when he would continue his housing project, he will have enough money to go there. His mother will be proud, his father will be proud. But that Uber thing, he can never drive it in his own town. He will say like, I can't drive Uber at home, but I can drive it in Lagos. What am I saying? Oftentimes when we are away from the people that matter to us, we find it easy to do dirty jobs. You see people who travel abroad and they would clean. They would take on odd jobs that they wouldn't do at home. I know people will go to Cote d'Ivoire from Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and there they will hawk meat. They will do all sorts. Let them come home, back to somewhere in Nigeria, Ogumosho or somewhere, or Iwo, where many of them go there. You see the way they would dress, the way they would do. So basically, oftentimes, when we are not where the people that matter to us or that can, where the impression of people or where our pride or our name, when we are not where our name or our nature, our pride or our people, our integrity or our circumstances will not be belittled. Oftentimes we want to do the dirty work when we are not there. But that is not the case with Joseph. Joseph was away from home. He was in the house of Potiphar, and yet he did everything excellently well. Excellently well. He applied himself. He ensured that he brought out the spirit of excellence in his own doing. It was a personal choice. He wouldn't collect salary at the end of the month. He doesn't get paid. In fact, Potiphar could kill him. The right of Potiphar was that you have a slave, you can kill a slave, you can sell him to somebody else. So you don't really owe your master. If you're a slave, you don't really owe your master excellence. Maybe you just do the work and you grumble, so that in exchange for food. Oftentimes, that's all the slave owner would owe the slave, food. But in the case of Joseph, Bible said that he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. The Lord was with him, and the Lord gave him success in everything he did. He had excellence. He had good success for his boss, not for himself. Good success for his boss. He did so well, to the point where Potiphar said, okay, you are going to be the head of my household. I am going to handle everything that I own. And when he became the manager of Potiphar's estate, it was an enviable position to attain at such a young age. Joseph basically took over the estate of Potiphar when he was between 17 and 19 years old. Imagine that. When he was between 17 and 19 years old. And the man entrusted him with everything because of the spirit of excellence that he has. He didn't say this man is a pagan. He didn't say this man is a slave owner. He didn't regard Potiphar as somebody whose business he should sabotage, or somebody who he should hate or dislike. He applied himself so well that through him, Potiphar prospered. This is a second point that I'm willing that many of us here would be able to take on. In the last 2 days, a lot of talk about toxic workspaces and all that have been going on all over. And it is important that we as believers, wherever we work, people should say, wow, you're good. Like, not because we are serving our bosses, no, but because that is us, that's our signature. Being excellent at what you do is a personal choice. Nobody will do that for you. You must learn how to dot your I's and cross your T's, how to check over your work and remove and eliminate flaws. You must apply yourself and be excellent. You must do things. When you are working with somebody, let everybody be able to say, oh, this when so and so, when you give him a project, he would execute it with panache, with vavavu, with gusto. He will do it well, so that around you people know you for excellence. I know a lot of people that simply because they are employed, the way they apply themselves to their work, the attitude, so laid back. And some people just want to collect the salary and grumble throughout the month, doing little, and yet expecting that their boss should be forking out money at the end of every month, regardless of what they contributed or what they didn't contribute. There are people like that, a lot like that. Some people will deliberately sabotage their bosses' businesses. I was in Abuja the other day, and this guy collected the salary. The boss was going to the airport. He collected the salary and it disappeared. And the boss couldn't drive. And when the man called me to say, can you imagine what has happened to me? My driver disappeared. And then after 1 week, the driver showed up and began to beg. I was like, you needed this job. You basically affected this man's business, and the man didn't owe you. So why did you behave like that? But it is the attitude of some people to labor, to work. They just want to get the pay. They wouldn't apply themselves, and so nobody can recommend them for a higher position. They are not fit to be recommended, not fit to be celebrated, not fit to be celebrated, and that's a terrible thing. I know that some places where we work, maybe the environment is not so good. maybe the place is toxic, but it couldn't have been as bad as Joseph had it. He was a slave. We still have the option of walking away. If you work in any organization, put in your best. If you work in church, as not as a salary, whatever, but you are just apply yourself. Even if it is in your kitchen and you cook, don't dump plates. Don't let your kitchen not be a cholera kitchen. There are some places that if you go to people that you visit, if you go to their kitchen, you will not eat the food they serve you, because you will definitely be sure that you can catch a bug or two because of the way they have made their kitchen. I personally hate dirty kitchens. I can't bear it. So it's one of the things for me. If I come into the house, even though I'm not a woman, because I know that that's where the food that myself and my family will eat will come from. So in my house, there can't be a dirty kitchen. I will not allow. And you cannot leave a plate overnight. You cannot leave it for 1 hour. I don't want to see a fly in my house. I don't want to. It has nothing to do with Christianity. I was like this since forever. I just prefer that at least I will eliminate the chance of getting sick from my own kitchen. I just didn't like that. And a lot of people, they don't pay attention to these things. That these things that we do define us too. Even our clothing, we don't bother to iron, just dress shabbily. We don't bother to even the way, the way we discuss. Well, some people, they are quick to pick when I notice it when we begin to exchange words. People will realize, oh, there are some words this guy spoke. They will pick it up and add it to their vocabulary. They are they're making themselves better. Some people don't even want to bother. The spirit of excellence is far from them. If they make a mistake, they don't correct it, they'll make it again tomorrow. How then can you say you have the spirit of excellence? The mere fact that Joseph was a slave and he exhibited excellence in everything that he did and attracted success to himself shows that if you would be successful, even when you are working for somebody else's business or somebody else's job, or even in your own house, if you are successful in your own home, that you attract to yourself recommendations, attract to yourself promotion. People would talk about you. They'll say, even your friends, when they talk, they say, no. Our kitchen is always neat. Or, oh, when you get to her house, you won't see a speck of dust. Or when she's reading her book, she arranges them well. Or when she wakes up in the morning, she will lay her bed. All these things. Not only should you have them, you should inculcate it in your children. Make sure that you don't raise a home that is shabby in its outlook. I know children are children. They will play, they will dirty this place, spoil that place, but make sure you drum it into their head from childhood that they are from the stock of God. God is perfect in everything he does. God is not shabby. Jesus perfected salvation so much that we didn't have to add anything or take anything away from it. Like, if this something is precise, 100%, our salvation, the story of our salvation and how we came to become adopted into Christ was a perfect execution of God's plan by Jesus. And that shows somebody that is perfect, that is excellent, that when the journey was done, it was the one that marked his own script. Father, unto your hand I commit my spirit. Palm, and he signed out by himself. And God so highly exalted him. See, because he did it so perfectly well, he got exalted. It is important. Now I'm going to the third aspect. Remember that I spoke about the first aspect, which is no matter what we go through, God is with us. And oftentimes we don't know it, but God is with us. Second aspect is character, excellence. If God is with you, you may not be excellent. And God will be with you and you just be dirty, and then you say God is not favoring you. But if God is with you and you have excellence, a spirit of excellence, like Daniel, kings will send for you. Kings will send for you. People would look out and say, yeah, come, yeah, this is the kind of person we want to associate with. Now to my third point, which is the temptation. Do you know that if Joseph was a dirty guy, if he was one of those slaves that would that didn't apply himself, that would sit in one corner and be smelling, that wouldn't have his bath because he's depressed, that would be acting like a madman. Potiphar's wife wouldn't come and say, fine boy, what's up? Oga will not know. Let's be together. No, it was the excellent grooming. See, I have some brothers say, I've been trying to ask a girl out. The girl is not giving me the light of day. And I will look at them. If in my own head, I will be thinking, who want to go out with you? Hey, the person already knows that you are not groomed. You didn't groom yourself. And you now want to be saying, no. People like good things. If you have an excellent spirit and you dispatch yourself as such, you will attract attention. This time, the attention wasn't so positive, but naturally, people want to associate with excellence. I learned that from when I was quite young. When I was quite young in my school, maybe I'll say I was ugly as a child. I wasn't so fine. So I didn't, and I was not rich. So I couldn't, and I didn't want to be the last person. So the only way I could is to apply myself to my academics, make sure that in class I always come out on top. I deliberately pushed myself in that regard. One of the fallout of excellence in that regard is you get to attract a lot of people who want you to help them. Please, my assignment. Oh, can you teach me this? Oh, can you teach me that? On a good day when I was in the university, if I sit somewhere, you see about this that surround me. I'm not making out to, and I feel happy about it because even though I didn't date any of them, excellence brings to you the right attention, the right kind of people, the people that want to achieve and they can see you as a yardstick. However, excellence also attracts certain people who think that excellence can be sexually transmitted, or that if you are with them, if you associate with them, it will help to launder their image. So oftentimes, there are people we call users. This is Potiphar's wife. She just wanted to use Joseph for sexual satisfaction. From the study of the hierarchy of the kingdom of Egypt at the time, there are two possibilities. Neither of them are excuses, but I have to let you know them. The word Potiphar is not a name, it is a title. And it also means Enoch. Enoch. Somebody tell me how it's pronounced. Somebody pronounce it for me.
Eunuch, you're correct.
I'm correct, thank you. Yeah. So what I mean by that are those who wait on kings. Those who wait on kings in palaces, those who are officers of a king in those days, they often will castrate them. The reason for castrating them is simple. They do not want them to be, in quotes, attracted or to be biased towards certain women in the palace, or to lust after certain women in the palace. And a king's palace, kings usually have harems, and there are a lot of beautiful ladies that will be in that harem. And the king would have to liaise through his officers to reach the harem and to coordinate the affairs of the palace. So Potiphar could have been one of such guys who couldn't, in quotes, have sex, but married for the sake of the prestige that it gives. Because we never heard that Potiphar had a child or that he even adopted children. That was why it was easy for Joseph to become the head of his household. If he had a son, that would never happen. So we never heard that. So it's possible that this guy was in that category. It's also possible that Potiphar's wife just fell in love with the guy that is always at home. So sometimes if two people are always at home together, I've seen this often, even between some men and house girls. I often counsel men, especially ministers that I work with, who have house girls, I don't tell them to get small girls as house girls. I want young girls to go to school. So if you are going to get a house girl, I find that the house girl is somebody that is mature. At the same time, I will tell the men, I don't want to hear stories. So make sure you are, under no circumstances find yourself locked up in the house with the house girl in such a manner that you anything can happen and it will be your word against us or her word against yours, or something evil will begin to happen. If you are not working that day and your wife is not at home, go to church, I'll go and read, go to a library. I usually say that just leave the house. Leave the house. Especially if you know that you are the type that can easily be swayed. So I'll tell them, just make sure that that space is not filled. Just get out. Because one of the things that excellence does is that it will attract somebody like Potiphar's wife. She she had power, and power was on her side in that she was the wife of Potiphar. Joseph, however, had no power. This is a disproportionate relationship in which she would either use or break him. Joseph considered the circumstances. He is a very smart guy. He's wise. He knew, just like I would think about it too, like, okay, if I step with this woman, at least I'll be able to have a bed to sleep at night and I'll be fine. But if I don't, this woman can get me thrown out of the house. She can get me sold. She can say anything to her husband, and her husband will believe her and it will be over for me. Joseph will have looked at the pros and cons. The one thing that helped Joseph above all was that Joseph said, should I do this and sin against God? So Joseph himself had a God consciousness, he had a conscience that yearned after God and God's plan. This is very important. When we hear scandals in church, this pastor, this, that, this one, this, that, oftentimes many people would think the brother just saw the sister or the pastor just saw the secretary and pounced on her. It's not true. That's not how it starts. They will have a good relationship, and then from the normal relationship, things will begin to get emotional, and eventually it will climax into sex. And that is because they are both in the same space and they work together often. It is sometimes, I'm not saying that there are not some men who will just randomly just be picking girls up and sleeping with them, but oftentimes when you see faithful men who drift, one of the causes of drifting in a marriage, or faithful women also drift, is that emotional commitment somehow will come into a relationship that was meant to be platonic, and before you know it, the passion will be ignited, and then the head will no longer work. And when the head is not working, the body can be subject to anything, and then the head will not work later, guilt will set in, and a lot of parameters, and before you know it, everything is scattered. So the same space that Joseph found himself with this woman did not help. At the same time, the level of power that this woman had over him did not help. But one thing helped Joseph. He was conscious of God. And that helped him to pick the more dangerous or the more strenuous option. The easy option was to sleep with her and just save his head. But the other option was that it was framed and it was thrown into jail. But the Bible said again that God was with him. And even in that jail, because he has trained himself to excellence, even in that jail, Joseph continued to live an excellent life. He continued to apply himself in every situation he found himself. He did it excellently well. He didn't say, oh, after God, no, he didn't complain. He saw everything like, okay, there was no hope for him anymore. He was a slave. From a slave, he was a prisoner, and who will bail him? He was a powerful man that put him down. But then, even in prison, he did so well that he was named the captain of prisoners, and everybody regarded him as a man of excellence. And this is very important, that everywhere we find ourselves, we do our work with excellence. But Excellence without moral integrity is not good enough. I know people that are very excellent. I know professors excellent in the academics, but morally, they are not morally upstanding, and this often is like a key leg to their testimony. Excellence should be all true. It should be integrity. You have excellence in everything, including your conduct. This is where we'll draw the curtain on today's teaching on Genesis 39. I believe that we'll meet again next week, Tuesday, and we'll take it to Genesis chapter 40. Has somebody been blessed by this class?
Yes, sir.
Let the Lord shout glory.